In this demo, I'm going to show you how in just a few minutes we can build an AI agent to automate policy comparison of any kind. For this example, I'm going to create an agent that will read lengthy flood insurance policies like the one shown here. It'll pinpoint every material difference in a matter of seconds, and it'll do it every time we upload a new document. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is come back to the home page and click Create a New Agent. When we're creating a new agent, we can just provide instructions in natural language. Here I'm going to tell the agent I want it to compare and analyze insurance policy documents to identify key differences in coverage, terms, and conditions. That takes us to the agent creation screen, and all we have to do to create an agent is give it an example document or set of documents for what we'll be working with. For this example, I'm going to upload these two documents, which are federal flood insurance policies. I'll go ahead and click Submit, and the platform will immediately parse those. And here we are taking a look at these policies, which are offered by FEMA for flood insurance. We have this F-122 dwelling form and this very similar F-123 general property form. These documents are dozens of pages long and include a lot of details about the policy and many clauses related to how the policy is to be used. When we want to have the agent extract some information, all we have to do is provide that in natural language. First off, I just want to know what is the general purpose of these documents. I'll go ahead and click Create. This is just information that I'd like to have to help me explain what I'm showing you here. Here we can see the result that the agent pulled up in just a few seconds. These are standard flood insurance policy documents, and the agent also provides reasoning. So this is how the information found this information. It's exposing its chain of thought, and it also references the documents where it found the relevant information. This is the set of instructions, and you'll notice that this is slightly different than the instructions that I gave, and that's because Kolena will automatically optimize its own prompt based on the instructions we give and based on its contextual understanding of the problem. So it wrote its own instructions here based on our initial instruction to make sure that it pulls out the most relevant information. Let's extract some more information. Since I want to know the difference between these very similar policies, I'm going to have it say, highlight any clause present in one form but absent or materially different in the other. I'm going to go ahead and click Preview this time. It's rewriting this prompt to optimize it to deal with this type of document. Now we can see here that it's rewritten it, compare the two policy forms and identify any clauses that are present in one form but materially different than the other. Focus on key coverage differences, limitations, or special provisions that distinguish the forms from each other. Here we can see the result, where it lists the key differences between the forms, including the coverage scope, stock coverage, condominium coverage, tenant improvements, unit owner interior coverage. It provides how it found that information, as well as citations for where it found it in each of these documents. This is good, but I want this information in a table. And when we want the output to be different, all we have to do is suggest an improvement. And again, we're just going to use natural language to update our instructions. So I want it to provide the information as a table. I'll go ahead and click Continue. And what that'll do is it'll rewrite this prompt to incorporate this feedback that I provided. It'll rewrite it so that it's now going to format it as a table, which we can see here, where it selected table for itself as the output. And it's now going to have a row for each feature and a column for each of the two different forms. That's the format that I want, so I'll go ahead and click Update, and it'll rerun that information and output it in the format that we want. Here now we can see that it lists each feature and how that feature is represented in each of these forms. I actually have a very specific format in mind, so now what I'm going to do is actually suggest an improvement again, and I'm going to tell it I want its very specific table. For each key difference, I want it to list the page number where the difference appears, identify the specific element, state for each of the forms what they provide, and then summarize the key difference as a column. And I'm going to tell it to specifically focus on substantive differences in coverage, terms, conditions, or restrictions. I'm giving that as feedback because this is exactly what I want in the formats that I would otherwise be doing by hand. This is what I want the agent to do for me automatically. It'll rewrite the instructions so that now it's incorporated it into its own instructions here. I'll go ahead and click Update, and now in a moment we'll have the updated format. Here now we have the new output, which will cite specific pages, and importantly will give me this key difference column so that I can very quickly see all of the key differences across both of these two policies. We can even do things like, if I need to know if this is actually the most recent form that should be used, or if there's a newer form out there that should be used, we can actually have these agents search the web for up-to-date information. So I'm going to tell it, check if these policy forms are the current official versions in use, and return true if these versions are the most current, otherwise return false. So respond false if there are newer versions that have superseded these. I'm going to go ahead and give the agent these instructions, and it will now search the web for forms that follow or that are of the same type. And if there's a newer version of them, it will return false, meaning the current version status that's not the current version. Otherwise, it will return true. There we go. We can see that it's true. These are the most current versions, and we can see the reasoning here based on research of official FEMA sources, and it provides links to where it's searched on the web. These are the most current official versions in use. Now, as we're adding these in, we can add as much information as we like so that we end up with a report that fits the formatting that we prefer. We can then download this report as a document, PDF, docx, spreadsheet, for example. And anytime we upload a new document, it will run these same extractions, meaning it'll follow these instructions again. Every time we upload a new document, we only need to provide these instructions at the beginning with our first example. And that's how the power comes into this process. We can automate this otherwise very tedious process. Now that we've provided these instructions, we can add connections. I'll go ahead and click continue up here to add connections, which include a source and a destination. A source is wherever we have our input documents. So we would drop in policies that we want to compare. And then the destination folder is where we'll have our output reports, our comparison reports. So I'll go ahead and click to demonstrate that. Go ahead and click add source. It could be from wherever your data lives. In this case, I'm going to demonstrate from Google Drive connection, where I have it connected to my Google Drive folder. And I want to take a look at this particular folder, policies to compare. And anytime I drop a new set of documents in here, I want it to run through the agent. Go ahead and click confirm. And then when it's processed that and turned it into a report according to the instructions we gave, I want it to drop that in the destination, which in this case, I'm going to choose a Google Drive folder, a different folder. I want it to drop it in this policy comparison reports folder. And I want it to include the reasoning and citations so that I can go and verify the information myself. And there we go. We've set up the automation now so that anytime new documents are dropped in here, we'll get the reports here. And it's just as simple as that. So if I, just to demonstrate that very quickly, if I just drop these files into the folder here, just uploading a zip file which just has 2 PDF documents in here, just dragged and dropped it in. But this could happen through any automated process. It could be integrated with whatever system you're using currently to manage your documents. It could be dropped in wherever that lives. It doesn't have to be here. But Kolena will be automatically monitoring that. And as soon as those document comes in, it'll begin extracting that information so that you can see here that these are the new documents that I've dropped in, and it's starting to run these extractions already. And this is the first one that we did together. If you're ready to see your own custom agents crunch your own documents, click book a demo at kolena.com, and our team would be happy to walk you through a demo on your own workflow so that you can see the time savings like this firsthand. Thanks for watching.